The question of how far we should go in extending and preserving life may become one of the central moral struggles of the next century. If medicine continues its curve toward technical perfection, where only the truly destroyed are beyond recovery, then the dilemma emerges: who gets to live longer, and on what terms? It is not hard to imagine that immortality will first be a privilege for the rich, mere prolongation for the middle class, and continued misery for the poor. The technology itself is neutral, but access never is. Once survival becomes an item for purchase, it will divide societies more brutally than property or race ever did. We can already see how this logic works on the margins. When organs fetch tens of thousands of dollars and desperate populations coexist beside buyers insured in rich countries, temptation ensures exploitation. People in slums will be treated as reservoirs of tissue. It is not speculation. Trade in organs already exists because our insurance and hospital systems will pay any price to keep a covered patient alive. It becomes a moral transaction flattened into a financial one. The question of who lives and who dies is replaced by the question of who can pay and what an insurance plan includes. Money and clean water already double lifespans between Bangladesh and California. Longevity is not about miracles, it is about wealth distribution. In this sense, medicine has forced religion's hand. Religious duty tells us to care for the sick, to feed and comfort and accompany them. But when caring for the sick means fighting nature indefinitely, keeping the body alive long after the mind's quality of experience has vanished, it ceases to be moral. Doctors profit. Families rationalize that it is godly, and the patient, often long past recognition, becomes an abstraction. The system loses sight of the obvious measure, not the duration of life, but the worth of living it. To sustain flesh beyond meaning is only to disguise confusion as virtue. Science fiction foresaw this tangle decades ago. Huxley imagined a society where bodies were engineered to remain young until 65, then died painlessly. That forced equality of lifespan offends us as much as class-based immortality does. We tolerate neither compulsory death nor unlimited survival. Yet, while our politics and economics depend on collective consensus, we have none about dying. We are moving one by one toward decisions that no longer seem abstract, but define the end of our own story, and still we have no language to resolve them. Writers like Greg Egan show where near-term medicine will lead: digitized consciousness, minds uploaded from dying brains into machines. Most people recoil from such an idea until faced with actual death. Then the question is not theoretical. Do you want the plug pulled, or do you want your mind copied and then the plug pulled? How many, standing at that edge, would decline? Once experience is translated into software, it could unfold millions of times faster than human perception. A minute outside might equal decades inside the processor, a kind of eternity compressed into a moment. But then what? Digital souls still depend on electricity, maintenance, and data integrity. Whose responsibility is it to keep a simulation alive after its bank account runs dry? Would the state pay for the upkeep of the dead? Would they work within the machine to earn their own survival? Even immortality dissolves into an economic problem. It is always money. Genetics will not make this simpler. Even before downloading minds, the market will be selling genes like software: immunity to cancers, longer fertility, stronger bodies, higher IQs. Some will call resistance to modification a form of romantic sentimentality. Others will see it as the last defense of individuality. If everyone opts for optimization, what happens to the accidents that produced an Einstein or a Warhol? The dream of perfect design destroys the very unpredictability that art and genius depend on. Yet who will deny the therapy that makes a life easier, thinner, smarter, safer? Freedom becomes the freedom to conform perfectly. You can already see the prototype society in Los Angeles, where bodies, faces, sexes, and ages are routinely redesigned. Market capitalism married to bio-choice creates an endless feedback loop. Identity becomes consumer product, and dissent becomes bad taste. The soap aisle of existence keeps expanding: 10 brands, 20 brands, but nobody debates whether the store itself should exist. We call it freedom, but it is really captivity in the glamour of choice. Soon the gene for obesity will be isolated. Then people who suffer from weight may be cured. Future children will ask about a time when humans came in irregular shapes. Are we enriched by difference or merely burdened by it? Do we correct nearsightedness and cancer but preserve fat and shortness for the sake of diversity? There is no formula for answering such a question once everything becomes correctable. The more we understand, the more moral power we inherit, and the less capable we seem of steering it. Each new technology mates with our oldest vices: greed, vanity, control. And from that marriage comes the next circle of hell. No invention has ever arrived with full comprehension of its consequences. The printing press built literacy, but also propaganda. The automobile gave freedom, but also the suburbs and smog. Biotechnology and computing will do the same at unimaginable scale. Each progress creates both enlightenment and a new species of misery. The future will be dangerous, but ignoring that danger only multiplies it. What modern society calls knowledge is mostly rumor absorbed from unreliable sources. Even the specialists rarely grasp what their neighbors in other fields are creating. Every discipline explodes simultaneously, blinding us to the total change in the human condition. Someone living entirely on that accelerating edge would seem alien, incomprehensible, half machine already. Yet art, meant always to bear the torch at the frontier, now mirrors our madness. Bodies pierced, genders fluid, consciousness merged with circuitry. If that is the vanguard, the rest of us had better prepare for something far stranger than science fiction. Mailer once warned that we must avoid a future where keeping body parts in the freezer becomes normal, but technology presses forward detached from morality. We have lost sight of what human means, and we have built institutions that treat us as only two things: workers and customers. To work or to shop are the only sanctioned purposes left. Everything else, poetry, love, reflection, is non-contributory, a hobby tolerated until it interferes with productivity. Technology itself is not the enemy. The enemy is our failure to master it with human intention. Every discovery gets translated first into weapons, surveillance, or profit. That reflex, how can we use this to control or kill, is proof that our ethical evolution has lagged centuries behind our mechanical skill. The only first step is to discuss it honestly. What is it to be human? And if that definition still carries worth, how do we defend it? Elephants, parrots, and otters may be endangered, but none so gravely as humanity itself. The extinction that looms is moral, rather than biological. Even our consciousness rebels against this. Psychedelics once expanded awareness of nature and spirit. Now the same substances confront us with nightmare visions of a mechanized world. Those so-called bad trips may not be delusion but prophecy. The psyche's alarm before everything organic is locked in circuitry. Consciousness cannot retreat much further and remain recognizable. The task is not to save technology, but to rescue humanness within it. For ourselves and for children, who should still look familiar to us. And yet, knowing humans, this will not be simple. Each generation insists it is still in control while control evaporates. We used to believe we were entering the digital age. In truth, it has already absorbed us. Machines communicate invisibly across the planet while we argue over meanings. The future has arrived, we just have not arrived within it. There will be no final ideology to guide us. Every ideology of the 20th century proved lethal in its obedience to certainty. The mature stance, if such a thing exists, is to live without closure, to model, adapt, revise, but never proclaim a final truth. That is stability in a world moving too fast for belief. Consensus reality has evaporated. Each person now maintains a private one. The polite rule is to avoid trespassing on other people's myths. In the age of infinite choice, reality itself has become privatized. This fragmentation is the real shape of the modern mind. Perspective, the Renaissance belief in a single vanishing point of truth, has dissolved in the glare of electronic media. We live after the vanishing point, in a world made of overlapping subjectivities, where the loudest voice often passes for the truest. We are through the looking glass, constructing reality by vote, by repetition, by algorithmic affirmation. There is no bedrock left, only surfaces. Whether this will destroy or transform us remains unanswerable. Art, religion, sexuality, technology, all keep testing what humanness means, each in its own idiom. What happens next depends not on machines but on our courage to face their mirror honestly. The future is already here, invisible and odorless, running under our fingertips. The question is whether we can still feel the body that touches the keys, and whether, if the chance arises to step entirely inside the machine, we will still choose to remain human.